Hey, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Purpose Maker. My guest today is Jacob Manthei. I'm going to read a little bit about his profile, and then we're going to jump into some leadership and wisdom stuff. Jacob is the president of Aster Brands. He'll explain to us what that is. Graduate of Arizona State University, W.P. Carey School of Business. He's raised in a family that values faith, family, entrepreneurship, and hard work. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Arizona State, how'd you get out there?
You know, I grew up in northern Michigan, and it's cold here in the winter. And it doesn't go much more than that. I went to Calvin College for a year, and we had some family that was going to ASU, and I got a call in February, and I'm sitting there in a freezing cold dorm room, and my cousin said, hey, my roommate's leaving at the end of the semester. Do you want to go to ASU? And no hesitation, I said, yeah, okay.
Boom.
That was it. I didn't look into, is it a good school or not? It was warm.
I think they often bump into the top 10 for party schools.
Yep. That is a true story. That's not so much my style, but it's kind of funny.
Schools known like that.
You go to the business school though, and it's like quiet. Everybody back then, was reading their paper Wall Street Journal every day and like that kind of stuff. And then you get outside of that kind of environment and it was wild.
I saw a funny picture on that. It had a whole bunch of people sitting on a train looking at their phones.
Mm-hmm.
And then it did a picture from like the 1950s. Yeah. Everyone's looking at their newspaper.
Yep.
So not much has changed on that. All right. You run a pretty cool business in town that does some manufacturing. Mm-hmm. The family was featured in Forbes a couple of years ago. So manufacturing, is it a lost art in the country? Tell me a little bit about that industry.
I think like huge manufacturing is something that in America kind of lost for a while. But in small to medium-sized business, I think what I've observed is that it's alive and well in America. But it's pointed at least in my sphere of influence, fairly narrow niche markets. And so you find something that you can exploit and then you do a small, narrow thing as opposed to manufacturing, cars or something like that. Obviously still happens in America, but if you look at the biggest auto manufacturers now, it's like BYD in China and stuff like that.
Sure.
So like that part of it, I think is something that America is trying to get back right now. But I think the small entrepreneurial stuff is alive and well.
So when you say manufacturing, what do you guys manufacture? So what are you building?
It's a good thing. So people, or a good question. People often ask, what is Aster Brands? This is a very wordy sentence.
Sure. Let's hear it.
Aster Brands is a sales, marketing, and intellectual property company that happens to manufacture a business opportunity for concrete producers globally. So if you were to walk through our plant, it looks like a machine shop. Okay. So what on earth am I talking about? Sales, marketing, and IP? Like it's confusing to people, right?
Right.
What we actually did was invent a series of building materials that are all heavy concrete products. We now have 5 different product categories in the space. And I will say a quick caveat. Nobody has ever accused anyone in our family, myself included, of being a super intellect. Right. So it took us like 5 generations to figure out that we live in a small town. Nobody lives here. And that concrete is heavy.
Concrete's heavy.
Okay, so when you have those two things, you can only grow so much because there's only so much market in a small town.
Yeah, there's limits.
And you can only ship, 2 to 10,000 pound concrete elements so far competitively. So that's when we were like, man, if we want to grow, how do we do it? I mean, because we're not capitalized to build a concrete plant in, 3 of them in every state.
Right. That's a lot of capital.
Yeah, because those plants, in today's dollars are probably $10 million each.
Say 5 to 10 mil.
Yep, for a little one. And so it's like, what do you do? Well, we figured out that what would happen if we could get a patent on this and sell the equipment to other concrete producers around the globe and then charge an ongoing license fee for an exclusive territory. And so that's the manufacturing a business opportunity.
Yeah, there's the intellectual property.
But why the sales and marketing? Why do I lead with that? Well, what we've learned as a rule of thumb, this is one of these like 80% true, 20% exception kind of a statement. But the manufacturers of concrete are not typically good at marketing and sales.
Sure.
So if you're going to come up with a branded proprietary product and have somebody else in a different market like Madrid, Spain, or Portland, Oregon, or XYZ,
Yeah.
and they're not good at marketing and sales, we only grow if they're growing their market share. So we built
You have to teach them the back end of that.
we built a marketing and sales engine on the front end of it to kind of go around our concrete manufacturing partners and pull market back into them.
That's a neat idea.
That's the business model. So like the sales and marketing, you have to lead with that. We have the IP, which creates some value. We sell the manufacturing equipment. Now we have, I'd have to 235 locations or something like that, in low 33 countries, maybe 34. We got a deal this week in
Did you just say
Slovenia.
you're busy?
Yeah. But then the marketing goes around that to the civil engineering community, landscape architecture community, civil contractors, landscape contractors, to pull market into our customers, and then we grow.
So
and
they can make money.
and then if we're getting new customers and the new customers are growing, then inevitably they ask for new products. So that is new customers, market share growth number 2, new products number 3. Right. Those are 3 of the 4 paths to growth. The 4th path is be a great place to work. Because if you do that, it's fuel for the first 3.
Yeah, people want to be there. Yeah, if we got any young entrepreneurs listening, one of the things I've heard is you don't have a business, you have a marketing firm. Mm-hmm. If you think about that first, you have to then market your service or your product. So you're basically reverse engineering. Most people start a business and don't think about marketing. So,
well, interestingly enough, back to being a Sun Devil, my degree was in marketing.
So that helps.
The definition of marketing, well, most people, when you ask them what is marketing, they're like, I don't know, it's when you sell stuff, or advertising. That's typically what you get.
Yeah.
Marketing is very simple. A definition: connecting a buyer and a seller.
I was going to say educating.
If you can connect the buyer and the seller, once they're connected, sales starts.
Right.
So like brand building, that's connecting a buyer and a seller with a brand or a product or a widget or whatever it is. And then, so that's why the sales and marketing
have to come together.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was your flagship product and what problem does it serve?
Yeah. So I'll reframe it slightly. Where did we start?
Okay.
Right. And I say that because we have 5 products now and they're all at different stages. So the start, living in Petoskey, Michigan, in a multi-generational family business. I started working in our site contracting business, building roads, underground utilities, stuff like that at age 11. And so Bay Harbor in Petoskey was well under construction in like the early 90s, when that was kind of my phase. Yeah. So we also have another business. We have 5 business units in our family. Aster Brands is just one. We had our veneer wood products business right next to the Bay Harbor entrance, and they were building condos right next to the other side of our manufacturing plant. And the developer called my Uncle Tom, and he said, "Tom, I'm going to build some condos right next to you. Can I come in, take a tour of the plant, buy you lunch, and talk about moving the plant over the next weekend?" That over a weekend. Now, this is a substantial business with
been there for
heavy capital equipment. I mean, stuff that's imported from overseas. That it takes 3 years to get a machine set up, kind of a thing.
Oh my goodness!
So we give the guy a tour, and at the end, he said, "I'm sick to my stomach," and he left. And Tom was like, "Where's my lunch?" And so the bottom line is our contracting business was building the roads, doing underground utilities, doing a lot of the site work down there. And the developer called my other uncle on the site construction side and said, "I talked to your cousin at the wood products business. This is going to be no good for me. Can you build a big berm between your plant and the condos and give me a retaining wall?"
Ooh.
And my Uncle Jim, who is if you asked him, he'd probably say he's an inventor or an engineer. He's an inventor. He's very creative, very mechanically inclined. And this was like pre-Google, but in today's terms, it would have been like, yes, I can do that. And then like you get your phone out and Google, what is a retaining wall?
Right.
And so like at lunch, he came up with a sketch on a napkin that turned into a product that we call Redi-Rock. And that is our biggest brand currently, that backing into your question, because it's the oldest one. It's the most developed. We've worked on it the longest, right? So that's where the initial thing came from. So you also asked, where does it add value? Redi-Rock is a 2,000-pound retaining wall block. So you can build a retaining wall anywhere from 8 to 30 feet tall with no soil reinforcement. It's kind of nerd speak for if you're building like a gas station on a road and there's a big bank behind it and you want to build an apartment complex with a parking lot
Up above.
right above, you need to build this wall. Say it's 20 feet high, and if you don't need any soil reinforcement, you can put the parking lot right on the edge of the retaining wall and probably create additional parking spots. So said another way, how do we add value? We create usable land.
Right.
So that was the original start. That's the currently our most developed brand. And since then, we've developed 4 additional brands. And
You want to see something cool?
yeah,
I took a picture of a Redi-Rock retaining wall at West Point
yeah,
2 weekends ago.
yeah.
Look at the parking.
Yep, that's exactly what I just defined.
Right,
is
that's
exactly
right
that.
up to the edge.
Yep.
I sent that picture to your dad.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's what's neat. I mean, 26 years in, it's hard to go anywhere in North America and not see something like that. It's all over the place. Now
Yeah,
it's
it is.
all over
I see
Europe. It's in the Middle East. I mean,
It just,
it's kind of humbling where like this idea, Uncle Jim, we called it Jimbo's Jumbo Blocks at the time
That
when
was
it was
the start?
Yep.
oh my goodness.
Yep.
Well, who came up with the name Redi-Rock?
Well, it went from Jimbo's Jumbo Blocks to American Ready Block.
Okay.
And that's when it was still just, being incubated inside of our contracting business. And that's when my dad was like, you're thinking too small. We should think about the globe. Right? So that's where it turned into Redi-Rock International.
Well, that's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
Then definitely catchy. All right. So Redi-Rock flagship product. You can't just sit on that. So you start creating.
Well, we sell territory. So the way the business model, selling a business opportunity is concrete's heavy, again. So you can truck it competitively depending on how the roads work, maybe in a 3 to 6 hour radius.
Okay.
So if you think about just the United States, if a guy buys a license in Cincinnati, just to pick a random, we have a guy in Cincinnati, but he'll buy a series of counties and the ongoing fee will be for the territory. So we'll say, okay, we'll agree to not set up another manufacturer within those counties. And then there's kind of a fixed, this is the production capacity you have to put in. That is kind of an incentive to sell the product. And that's how that stuff works.
So like this wall I just showed you,
Yep.
you guys didn't build it.
Correct.
It's out in New York. So how does that work?
We have, I'd have to go look at the map, 3 or 4 guys in New York. And that's kind of case in point. Once you get a brand to the point that is the limiting factor is how far you can freight it, then you work on it for 25 years, you sell a lot of territory.
You sell a lot of territory.
So if you want to keep growing, there's a couple ways to do it. You can do it by new products within an existing brand. You can do it by adding new geographies. That's why we grew an export business, which is now about 20% of what we do is shipping stuff outside of North America.
Nice.
The other way you can do it is to create a new product category so the map and the territory start from scratch again.
Right.
So that's why we have 5 brands, not just one.
Yeah. And so what was the second brand that you created?
The second one is called Rosetta Hardscapes, which is a landscape product. So think about, we're in northern Michigan. Think about all the inland lakes.
Yep.
So if you are on an inland lake where the lake is at lake level and you've got a bank, you'll have a walkout basement. That's where a landscape retaining wall will go. It's not a structural one. It's more architectural, but you still need to hold everything back. But we'll sell all the flat work, fire pit kits, all the coping units on all the stuff. So we went from a commercial retaining wall product in Redi-Rock to realizing that, man, we also know all these landscapers in northern Michigan.
Sure.
Why aren't they buying the commercial product? Well, we went and interviewed them all and said, okay, if we make a product that fits this category, we could create a whole nother brand. That's Rosetta. And then we came up with this is the most boring product name we've ever come up with, but it does great on Google searches because it's descriptive. It's commercial site lighting foundations. So if you go in any parking lot and you see all the light poles, they all sit on a concrete foundation. Our brand is called Pole Base because it's the base of the pole. So that's a brand. And then we have a smaller commercial wall category called Novum Wall that we launched 3 or 4 years ago.
What is that? What does that solve?
Like a 0 to 6 foot retaining wall, where the Redi-Rock one is like 8 to 50.
Oh yeah,
Because once you get past about 25, 30, we have another system for the soil reinforcement. And then in the commercial space, we were missing all the 2 to 8 foot walls. So we created
because
a
the other
category
ones
for
were
that.
so big,
They were
you're
too
not
big.
going to just build it 2 feet with 1,800-pound blocks.
That's right. So we came up with a category for that. And then we're just launching now a modular bridge system called Velpont. Velpont, very loosely translated, is Latin for fast bridge.
Very cool. We might need that in northern Michigan. We've had some washouts
Exactly.
that have damaged a lot of roads.
That happens all
over the country.
place. So our niche specifically is culvert replacements, which back to washouts in northern Michigan, not all, but many of the failures that we've seen this spring were undersized culverts.
Okay. Yeah, they just get overwhelmed and then they wash out the road.
That's why the Bayview Golf Course floods every spring. The root problem over there is an undersized culvert on the opposite side of the road.
And that's supposed to go under the road, take it towards the lake. Yeah, they have a problem every year.
Every year. Yeah. So that problem is everywhere in the United States. Even like you think about back to ASU, you're out in the middle of the desert and there's all these roads all over. In the desert, they have flash floods.
Yeah.
Every now and then you get a big rain. There's culverts all over on these like gravel roads in the middle of the desert.
Just for that reason. So they don't wash them out. Okay, so on the bridge side, are you going to also license that?
Correct.
So is that concrete still?
Yeah, we sell the manufacturing equipment to make the concrete elements.
Gotcha. And then what expanse would that cover?
Phase 1 of Velpont is 30-foot spans and below.
Okay. All right. And then how do you, so take a community like ours that's going to be rebuilding for years because of all the problems. How does that, there's got to be a lot behind that. There's got to be engineering and meetings. How do you introduce that stuff to a county?
So this is back to brand building.
Yep.
So there's phases. You have to have of commercializing innovation. That's kind of how I'm framing your question. How do you commercialize an innovation to where it actually gets into a market? When you're developing a product, you have to do a technical product like a bridge. Bridges are really complicated. I mean, if they fail, people die.
Yeah, the tolerances are
So
tight.
what do you do? There's all kinds of very, again, as a marketing person, I don't like rules. I don't like details, any of this kind of stuff. There's these giant binders full of federal, state, local regulations that you have to go through that give you all the specifications that you have to, all the regulations, all the zoning stuff. So you got to go through all that and understand it so that you can find a clear problem. Well, the problem is most of those things are either solved with a culvert that are notoriously undersized or a cast in place concrete bridge span. And either way, I mean, you'll go into a small, say 30-foot span bridge and it might take 12 to 18 months to build. And it might cost $1.5 million. And every one of them is different. They take forever to permit. They do all these things. So we looked at it and we said, okay, we actually partnered with a group that one guy was a bridge engineer and the other guy was a bridge contractor. So the partnership essentially meant we brought in a decade worth of experience and mistakes that we didn't have to make.
Yep.
So we did that process with them, and it turned into a product where what we believe you could go into a failure that would cost $1 million to $1.5 million, take 12 to 18 months to replace, and we could replace it, including the asphalt paving, in like 4 to 6 weeks, and maybe cost $400,000 to $600,000. So because of the modular nature, you can just go slap it in really fast. You can make it way wider, which increases all the water flow. And then it also means you can build it oftentimes not in the wet, which makes it a lot faster and a lot cheaper, and it changes the permitting game. So to go back to an earlier question, you talked about...
Sounds like 5 problems you're solving.
About manufacturing in America, and I said in the small entrepreneurial space, I think it's alive and well. What happens is you find these weird, boring little niche markets, and then you're like, I can own that.
Sure.
Because if you drive around any road, any county road, there's culverts everywhere.
Yeah.
You're driving over them all day, every day, and didn't know they were there. That's what I'm looking for. The boring stuff that other people are driving over and not paying attention to.
Right. All right. Well, I know you guys have grown as a manufacturer, and you recently had to move. I I would say the whole business, right? Mm-hmm. How's that process been?
Well, that's the most recent move. I counted it up the other day. I think I've moved in the last 20 years 6 or 7 times.
Oh my goodness.
All because of outgrowing space.
Right.
So about 10 years ago, we created a 10-year strategic plan. We had a 10-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 1-year plan, and we do quarterly reviews on those. Yep. And the quarterly review points you to the 1-year plan. And if you set the 1-year plan right, that gets you closer to the 3 years, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
This is year 10. 2026 is year 10, and we're going to be plus or minus 5% of our target, which is unbelievable to hold a goal for a decade.
Sure.
If you zoom back 10 years ago, one of the first things we said on the strategy part, not the financial part, was have a long-term expandable campus where the whole company could be under one roof.
Did you just hit that?
We just hit that. We actually
that feels good.
We moved the office space on Monday,
this last week.
This week.
This week.
Yeah.
A couple days ago.
Yes. So for the first time since in 25 years, again, we've got all of the licensing side of the manufacturing under one roof. And when I say that, we did a vertical integration and acquired a customer in Florida. Mm-hmm. So we have our own concrete plant in Jacksonville, Florida also. So that's kind of our innovation lab. Sure. But yeah, for this part of the business, it's all in one spot. So the bottom line is we had an office building. We had the steel and polyurethane manufacturing. We had a warehouse. Those were 3 locations. And then the 4th location is the Florida one.
Right.
It's very hard to manage fragmentation.
Sure.
And when you live in a small resort community, there's not like an overabundance of big industrial buildings available to buy. And there's also, it's almost impossible to get new industrial land zone to build something. Mm. And I have walked all of the industrial buildings,
in this county.
Yep. Yeah. And some others too.
Yeah.
Other counties too. And it's actually, I mean, I'm happy to share the story if you want me to, but how we ended up in Harbor Springs.
Tell me.
Was just unbelievable. So we, again, having walked all the buildings, some of them were for sale. Some of them we were trying to make for sale, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We were under contract for a building in Charlevoix. And we were at a point where the seller, we had an accepted offer. And every time I would talk to the seller, he would change the deal. And the deal got weirder and weirder. And I'm sitting there thinking, I feel desperate because we need to move. We can't grow anymore. And I'm on the cusp of making a bad business deal because my back's to the wall and we have no options. That was a bad deal. That didn't feel good. No. I'm like, again, I like optionality. I like freedom. I don't Options like rules. I don't like, yeah. So having, worked on it for 6-7 years at that point, I'm like, this is it. There's no other option. So, okay. Put that on the shelf for a second. I go to this economic development event. I don't know, maybe a year prior to that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what it was. I got invited to this thing called the Northern Lakes Economic Alliance Annual Symposium. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was. And somebody called me and said, will you sit on a panel at this thing? And I was like, yeah, okay. I had no idea what it was. So I go there and I'm like, they introduced this PhD economist guy, and like I'm sitting up there like, why am I on this stage, right? And anyway, long story short, they had an award for the project of the year in the community later on, and they gave it to this company called Daifuku.
Oh yeah. And
Daifuku owned this building that we just moved into. Mm-hmm. And the award was for their new building that they built, like a 300,000 square foot building or something in Point City. And I grabbed the CEO of Daifuku America at the break after he got the award. And I was just like, what are you doing with Harbor Springs? And he was like,
everyone's celebrating his other business. You want his other building.
I'm a networker. I pick up on these dots that most people would just be like, oh, he built a building. And I'm like, no, what happened to the other one? So I grabbed him and he was like, let's go walk it tomorrow. And I was like, I'm there. So we go walk it. He hadn't listed it, hadn't thought about price, and he throws a number out there. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
that seems a little steep. I think you're going to have a hard time selling this place. And he's like, oh, no, it'll be fine. So a year goes by. I see a real estate sign go up. A guy named Jack Van Treese. And I was like, I don't know Jack, but I've seen a sign for my whole life. Sign comes, I call him, he gives me the price, and it's a little bit more than the
original.
Yep. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. About 30 days later, the sign comes down, and I was like, shoot, somebody did buy it. Keep going. Then a sign goes up on the property that says, like, vote yes on Prop 732. And I was like, what is that? So I start reading about it, and I find out it has all these zoning problems. The land is on these long-term, like, it's two parcels. One is owned by the county, and one is owned by the city of Harbor Springs. And that parcel is actually the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And like there was all this zoning stuff, and on the long-term lease, there was like 18 months left on a 50-year lease. And I was like, that's why nobody bought it. So when you look at all of that, I learned a lot about zoning, small town politics, how all these things work. And I was like, man, they're just gonna have a problem. The proposition thing, they lost the vote. There it sits. Now I'm back to the original story. Now I'm sitting there under contract on this other building. My back's to the wall. I get a call from this guy named Jack Van Treese. Again, I'd seen a sign my whole life.
Yeah.
Never met him. I get a voicemail. You could tell he's an older guy. And he says, hey, Jake, you don't know who I am. My name's Jack. I knew your grandpa. Call me back. And I was like, that's worth a call.
That's interesting.
And so I call him, and he gives me a price that's even more.
So 3 price increases here.
So there it sits for about a year. And then he called me back again, said they're ready to sell. And then we made a deal that was at a good number. And
that was reasonable.
And that was about the time that my back was against the wall on the other. So finally I had leverage. I had 2 deals, and I dropped out of the one and made the other deal. And then we had to go through all the zoning and all the hearings. And
you got all that stuff figured out?
All that stuff. I mean, it's really interesting having gone through that in hindsight now. The city of Harbor Springs has been just a gift to work with that city council, and so has Little Traverse Township. I mean, those guys. It's just that's a God thing. I did not make that up. When you go back, there's no linear path. It's all these. Why did I get invited to go sit on a panel at a symposium and randomly meet a guy, and out of the blue get a call from a guy I didn't know that knew my grandpa? And I mean, the dots that connected there were just an unbelievable thing. I don't claim to have done that. I claim to have showed up. And at the same time, a Jim Collins quote is get a high return on luck.
Ooh, that's a good quote.
I knew where the luck came from,
sure,
but you also have to get the return on it. A lot of people just miss the luck event.
They don't get the return. Yeah. I don't remember who said it, but innovation in business is leadership. So, and then what's neat, I could just kind of see how your brain works. Learning all that zoning stuff just adds to your knowledge. Like you're a better business person.
Knowledge compounds.
Yeah, it's a good one. Well, then you got to market it, right? Okay, so you got the whole business moved over there this Monday. Everything can't be in order yet, right? You guys got months of unpacking.
Well, with only the office moved on Monday.
Okay,
so we closed on the building at like Christmas time, 2024. So we've owned it for a year and a half, approximately. So we spent roughly 6-7 months cleaning out all the old stuff that was in there, doing infrastructure upgrades, roof fixes, electrical upgrades, and then we had to start moving equipment. That was an insane, logistical nightmare. So you're manufacturing product and sales are up. Now let's turn all the machines off.
You don't move them in a day.
So this is another God thing. We have, it's a long story how we ended up, we've got this operations manager guy that's just outstanding. The net is we turned the machines off for 90 days and we grew the company 10%. Those things don't typically go together in like, so when you say, is it all put together? Like that was insane. Last year was hard.
Yeah. 90 days of no manufacturing.
We did it in phases. So it was like turn these machines off and keep the other part going, get them set up. And then it was very, very inefficient because now you're operating in four locations and shuttling parts. And then you get a little bit more over and a little bit more over. And like Jason did it just, yeoman's work, whatever. I don't know what yeoman's means, but that's what he did. So that all came together and it got all put together. And then we moved the engineering offices. We did a remodel. They moved in like March. And then we're doing another renovation and we have temporary offices for the people that moved on Monday. So that's all gutted and moving. But the plant and all that operation has moved from chaos to now we're working on refinement and efficiencies and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Getting things flowing right. Yep. Yeah. Jake, that's an awesome story.
It's unbelievable because it's true.
Well, that's the best. So on the personal side, there's a lot going on in your brain. You can just hear it by these stories. How do you unwind? How do you literally go to sleep at night?
Oh boy.
Because not only you're worried about the business, you're worried about your employees, you're worried about their families. At some point you have to, this is a part of entrepreneurship people need to hear. There's not always a switch. You don't just walk home and all of a sudden, all my stress from the day's gone. Now I got to kiss my wife, play with my kids, and act like nothing's happening. What have you figured out kind of works for you?
Well, before we go to figured out, because I don't know that I have a good answer to that, but there's more than even what you just described because we're a multi-generational family business with lots of shareholders. So you have all the stuff that you just talked about managing an operating business, but I'm only one of 5 business units in our portfolio.
Oh, wow.
So then you sit on boards of other ones. So you have all the operation stuff to hold, but then you have the board layer and then a shareholder family layer above it. So you have to manage up and manage down all at the same time. And where, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it other than to say it's multi-dimensional chess. So something like how do you manage all that and hold it, I think is your question. And then the second question is how do you unwind with all that? When I was younger, I realized that I don't know what I don't know and I need a lot of help. And that's true today, So I was like, how do you accelerate learning? And I joined an executive peer group. I ended up at one point, I had, 4 mentors. And I figured if I had one 1-hour call once a week, I could do 4 different knowledge upgrades a month. And if you do that for 15 years, knowledge compounds. Right. And then every 6 weeks, I go to my executive peer group with a bunch of other local business people from Traverse City to Alpena is kind of like the northern Michigan area. And every 6 weeks, they bring in some business speaker from M&A to culture to how do you turn your brain off so you can cognitively recover. And I mean, I've learned a ton from that, built lifelong friends from it. But going back to, there's 2 sides of this. You said personally, how do you unwind? For me, some of the unwind started, this is a tough story, when my dad turned 50 and was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they told him you've got 6 weeks, or not 6 weeks, 6 months or something like that, go home and get ready to die.
Wow.
That's what they told him. And we were at work, again, multi-generational family business, and he calls me into his office. I was getting ready to get on an airplane to go visit a customer, and he was like, this is what I learned. Getting ready to die. Go on your trip. Don't screw the business up. And I was like, ugh. Like, how do you process that, right?
Right.
So, long story short, there was something in my brain that just clicked. That I was like, I need to take care of myself. Now, you're a chiropractor. You work on me every other week. You see, like, I come in and I like can't walk one day, and I'm like, yeah, that's stress. And then, so one of the ways that I've learned to work on that is just exercise, nutrition, consistent sleep to the best of my ability, like those kinds of things. I've spent a lot of energy working on physical recovery which was specifically not what your question was. It was, how do you turn your brain off?
They're connected.
They're connected, but what I'm learning is that I have underdeveloped my ability to recover cognitively. And this is like just a this year thing. Like what I'm finding at 43 with 10 and 13-year-old daughters and a wonderful wife and all this work stuff going on and growth and product development, innovation and international, I mean, all the stuff and family generational transition. I'm just like, I can't turn my brain off. I really struggle with it. And if I zoom way, way out, going back to like childhood, I had some experiences growing up. We have a very strong faith-based family. I'm a Christian, believe in Jesus, and I went to a Christian school that had some really wild ideas that were damaging to me.
Oh, interesting.
Very much so. I mean, at like a, I don't know, middle school age youth group thing, a guy told all the kids that I'm going to teach you to speak in tongues today, and if you don't do it, you go to hell. That was another like flip or switch flipped in my brain. I was like, this isn't right. And this is, I was thinking about this driving over here this morning. I don't know if this is a nature versus nurture, but some of that top down, rules-based, authoritarian, like I just reject it. You know,
it's against your nature.
Yeah, but that there was also some nurture there. But what I learned in that, going through, I mean, that's just like the origin story. There's a whole series of that stuff behind it. What I learned is, there's a bad lesson to have learned, but it's directly related to how you turn your brain off. The way I processed that as a kid, and I carried it way into adulthood, like up until probably the last 2 years. What that did was mean I was trying to earn my value. So I just overworked everything, traveled too much, had to get the grade, had to run on the treadmill, had to get the heavier lift, had to get the higher revenue, had to get the
performance-based identity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to the point where it hit me so hard, I was like, this is another God thing. I won't get too into the weeds, but they're in my, I drive a route every day. And there's a section of the route where I go by the school that happened. And I kid you not, every time I would go by, I felt sick to my stomach.
Jeez.
Now on that route, that's kind of on the way to this new building that we just moved into.
Do you say a little prayer when you go by?
Well, what I did, no, I just feel sick. What happened though is,
let's change that.
I realized,
Yeah.
I realized, you know what I need to do? This is my problem. And I've been like blaming it on this external experience or institution or whatever it is. I went and called the person in charge, asked him to lunch, and I asked for forgiveness for having had a hard heart.
Yeah.
That, when you talk about how to turn your brain off and sleep, forgiveness.
You started going to sleep very easily.
Oh my goodness. And like,
Yeah.
I don't get that feeling anymore. And that was like that process that got me to that point is what I was like, man, I've really been trying to earn my worth. That's super messed up. I don't feel that that way anymore. Having gone through that, that was a gift, you know,
Right.
and that's
Another
another non-linear, like, man, you buy this building, now it's on your daily route. Like, I can't make that up, you know? But once you realize it, you also have to, here's another principle, courage over comfort. There's nothing about that, doing that, sitting down with a meeting, some guy that you don't know that had nothing to do with that thing, but is the leader of the institution now, saying, I need to confess this and I'm sorry. There's nothing comfortable about that.
No.
But on cognitive load, that's something that's kind of my story this year. Like, okay, if you can get it through like the next layer of the identity work, how do you really recover cognitively now when you have so many things going on? And that's what I don't know.
Yeah,
It's really hard for me, and that's like I'm working on that right now.
Sure.
In not having that figured out, the older that I get is more and more expensive. Because when you have young kids, I'm starting to measure time in how many summers that I have with young kids in the house.
That's startling, Jake.
I need to start figuring out like, all right, how do I be more present. I'm working on that. So anyway, that's stuff that I think a lot of people think about. A lot of people don't verbalize. Like, how do you separate the identity from your own value? That forgiveness story was a huge step forward for me. But there's also, when you're just a high performance, over functioning stuff, it's really hard to be able to compartmentalize those things. And when you carry responsibility for a lot of people, and your decisions have weight, it's hard. And that's not like, don't feel bad for me. I have a great life. I'm grateful.
But it comes with that territory.
It comes with leadership at scale comes with a burden.
Sure.
And that's not like, it also comes with tremendous gifts and learnings and opportunities, but everything has a trade-off.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great story. Forgiveness is definitely one of the most important things we can do in our lives, to let that burden go. So, well, I think that's actually probably a really good place to kind of wrap this up, because if you leave this podcast understanding how important that concept is, it'll change your life, right? So before we wrap it up, let's say you're going to leave some advice for your daughters. Right now, so far, what you've learned in life, what is one or two things that you'd love to leave them with?
I think develop your faith, anchor your identity in something bigger than yourself, which is a choice that puts freedom in front of fear. Because the freedom part is not having to earn your worth. And if you anchor your identity into a faith that equals being loved for who you are, I think that's really important. Now, everybody struggles. That's like the human condition, right? Like, it's the human condition. You're fighting, the human condition a little bit with that, but that's the biblical story. Jesus plus nothing, and that's the entire message.
Right.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think there's also this is like a way lower second. Put your relationships in front of just never-ending performance, but also work hard, develop your talent, and go as hard as you can with it. Because when you find something that you're good at, that you enjoy, that gives you energy, that's your gift to humanity.
That's a beautiful gift. Yep. Well, Jake, I want to thank you. I did get you a small gift. You'll like this. I got you. This is a little wooden crucifix that's from Israel. That's actually olive wood. And then your dad's been a mentor of mine. So it's been absolutely wonderful. One of his principles in his book is called Life, L-I-F-E. So we actually created Life's Golden Ticket. I don't know if you've seen this. Life's Golden Ticket basically takes those principles, talks about them, but if you flip it over, you'll see the tip method, transition, identity, and purpose. And we all battle through it. You're talking about that.
That's exactly right.
And that tip method, basically, those transitions, and then for you layered them. We have family transition. Excuse me. We have family transition. We have business transition. We have personal family. There's a lot of stuff going on and how to manage that. So that's why we came up with Life's Golden Ticket, and we talked to a lot of that on the leadership side. So
love it. Thank you.
Those are yours. I keep one of those right in my little money clip, so I'm always reminded of it. But thank you so much for your time today. A lot of wisdom, a lot of great stuff. Really appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.